Summary of The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. Laura Chase, Iris's sister, drives off a bridge in Port Ticonderoga, Canada, not long after World War II ends. The news story about Laura's death says it was an accident, but Iris thinks she killed herself. Laura wrote a book called The Blind Assassin before she died. It came out after her death, in 1947. In the beginning of the book, a nameless man and woman sit at a picnic and smile at each other. In the next part of Laura's book, the guy tells the woman a story about a planet called Zychron, which is inhabited by aliens. In another newspaper story, 1 month after Laura's suicide, Richard E. Griffin, Iris's husband and a well-known businessman, died. He died in a boat in strange ways, leaving behind his wife Iris, his sister Winifred, and his daughter Amy, who is 10 years old. In The Blind Assassin, the man tells the woman about Sakilnorn, which is a city on Zychron with a strict caste system. In The Blind Assassin, the man tells the woman how slave children on Sakilnorn are forced to make rugs until they go blind, at which point they are sold to brothels. Those who get away are hired to kill other people. The city also sacrifices people, even though most of the people who live there no longer believe in God. In another newspaper story, it says that Amy, the daughter of Richard and Iris and the mother of 4-year-old Sabrina, has died. Amy used drugs, and she didn't take care of Sabrina. Now, Sabrina is in the care of her great-aunt Winifred. In Port Ticonderoga, Canada, in the 1870s, Iris's grandfather Benjamin builds a button mill. Benjamin marries Adelia, whose family is well known in Montreal but is running out of money. Edgar, Percival, and Norval are the names of their 3 boys. Adelia dies of cancer in 1913. Just before she dies, a young woman named Riini starts working as a nursemaid and cleaner in Benjamin and Adelia's home, Avilion. Iris's father, Norval, asks Iris's mother, Liliana, to marry him at an ice skating party. Liliana is a very serious, religious person who spends her whole life helping people who are less wealthy. Iris is born in 1916, when World War I is going on. Edgar and Percival are both killed in the war in the same month. When Norval goes back to Canada, he no longer believes in God and starts drinking too much. She is born in 1919. After 5 years, Liliana has another baby. She falls down in the kitchen one day, has an abortion, and dies a few days later. Liliana asks Iris to promise to take care of Laura before she dies. When the Great Depression hits a few years later, Norval helps out with the rescue work, which makes Richard Griffin criticize him in the press. Violence breaks out between striking workers and the police all over Canada. In The Blind Assassin, the man keeps telling the story of Zychron, which is about a girl who is about to be sacrificed and a blind assassin who is paid to kill her as part of a plan to get rid of the king of Sakilnorn. Back in the main story, at Norval's button plant, there is a strike and lockout. As kids, Iris and Laura spent a lot of time running around Avilion by themselves. Norval starts going out with Callista Fitzsimmons, also known as Callie, a 28-year-old bohemian artist. At this time, an older woman they call Miss Violence and a guy named Mr. Erskine, who molested Laura, teach Iris and Laura. Iris doesn't believe Laura when she tells her this, though. Because of the Depression, life at Avilion has to become more strict. At Chase & Son's annual Labor Day party, Laura presents Iris to a new friend she's made, Alex Thomas, a young union organizer and writer. Elwood Murray, who is in charge of the local newspaper, takes a picture of the 3 of them sitting together. Riini tells the girls off when she sees them sitting with Alex. But Laura has already asked Alex to dinner, and Richard and Winifred will also be there. Laura acts like she likes photography so she can steal the negative of the picture of her, Alex, and Iris. As the depression gets worse, Norval reluctantly reveals that the button factory will have to close for a while. This makes the workers angry, so they call for a strike, which turns into a fight. The button factory is burned down, effigies of Norval, Laura, and Iris are burned, and nearby businesses that don't join the strike are smashed. Alex is said to have been one of the people who started the fight, so Laura hides him in the attic of a villa. When Iris finds out about this, she is angry at first, but then she agrees to help hide Alex with Laura. Alex kisses Iris one day when she goes up to the attic without Laura. Shortly after that, Iris, Laura, and Alex decide it's time to sneak Alex out of the house and get him to safety. Iris can tell after he leaves that Laura loves him, even though she doesn't say it out loud. Laura is helping the church's relief work more and more. Norval tells Iris that Richard is going to ask her to marry him, and he tries to get her to say yes so that the button plant can stay open and Laura can have a good future. They do end up getting engaged, and after that Winifred takes Iris out to lunch and starts making Iris into a good society woman. Laura begs Iris not to marry Richard the night before the wedding. In The Blind Assassin, the man has been hiding out in different flats, so the woman brings him money and supplies. He keeps telling the woman Zychron's story, about how the blind killer planned to kill the girl who was going to be sacrificed, but fell in love with her instead. The blind assassin and the girl get out of Sakil Norn just as another group is about to attack the city. On another occasion, while waiting for the woman, the man writes a more trashy, sexual science fiction story, the kind he sells to make money. Iris, who is now an old woman, tries to get in touch with her lawyer, Mr. Sykes, so he can write her will. She knows that Riini's daughter Myra will likely go through her things after she goes. Iris and Richard go on their honeymoon in the 1930s. When they get back to Canada, Iris finds out that Norval died while she was gone, and Richard hid the telegrams that told her this. Since Laura is only 15, she moves to Toronto to live with Richard and Iris. She goes to a special school called St. Cecilia's. Laura, however, runs away. Richard and Iris find her working at a waffle stand in a park and bring her home. In The Blind Assassin, the man makes the blind assassin and the girl get eaten by dogs as the end of their story. The woman is shocked by how bad things turn out. They see each other again later at a restaurant. The man tells the woman that he is about to leave the country. It's assumed that he's going to fight in the Spanish Civil War. The woman offers to leave her husband for him when he comes back, but the man wants her to do it now. The woman says she can't because she wouldn't be able to pay her bills. Richard wants to run for public office in the 1930s. Laura is kicked out of St. Cecilia's because she caused trouble, questioned the Bible, and made up doctor's visits to get out of school. Laura says she doesn't want to go to school and doesn't need to. Iris, Laura, Richard, and Winifred spend their vacations in London, New York, and Avilion. Richard tells them when they get to Port Ticonderoga that he fired Riini after Laura moved in with them in Toronto. Winifred says that Callie was recently arrested at a communist party and that Richard bailed her out. When Laura and Iris are alone, Laura talks about Mr. Erskine and how Iris never thought he was touching her inappropriately. When Laura turns 17, Winifred wants to marry her off more and more. Iris gets pregnant around this time. Soon after that, Richard and Winifred tell Iris that they sent Laura to a mental hospital called Bella Vista because she was saying she was pregnant. They think this is because she was so jealous of Iris that she was acting crazy. Iris can't talk to Laura because they won't let her. In the present, Iris, who is now old, thinks back to the last time she saw Amy before she died. Amy is drunk and high, and she says that Laura is her real mother and the man from The Blind Assassin is her real father. Iris runs away because she's scared. Even though Iris tried hard to stop it, Winifred gets custody of Sabrina after Amy dies. In the 1930s, Laura leaves Bella Vista, and Iris goes to Port Ticonderoga to see Riini. Riini tells Iris that Laura doesn't want Iris to know where she is, but that before she was taken away, Laura left a message for Iris. Iris finds the message, which is painted over the pictures in her wedding book by Laura, but she has trouble figuring out what it means. In The Blind Assassin, the man and woman meet at a cheap and dirty hotel. The man tells the woman about the Spanish Civil War and then says that a new war is about to start. The woman comes up with a plan to leave her husband and live on her own until the war is over. But this doesn't happen. Soon after, she gets a telegram telling her that the man has been killed. In May 1945, a week after the end of World War II, Laura calls Iris. When they meet at a cafe, Laura tells them that she really was pregnant and that Richard and Winifred made her go to Bella Vista for an abortion. When Iris asks who the father was, Laura says, "If you don't already know, I don't think I can tell you." Laura says that Richard used the threat to hurt Alex while he was hiding as a way to force her to do what he wanted. She did it to protect Alex. Iris says that she was having an affair with Alex and that he died in the war. Laura then takes Iris's purse and car keys and drives away in her car. The next day, a police officer tells Iris that Laura killed herself when she drove her car off a bridge. Iris finds Laura's notebooks in her stocking after Laura has died. She realizes from reading them that Richard had been raping Laura for years. She packs up her and Amy's things and leaves Richard a letter telling him that she knows what he did to Laura and that she never wants to see him again. She goes back to Port Ticonderoga, where she lives a quiet life with Amy. She puts out The Blind Assassin in 1947 under the name Laura. Richard's political career is over after the scandal, and when he calls Iris to tell her, she tells him that Laura was having an affair with Alex. Richard kills himself soon after, but Winifred makes it look like it was an accident. Then, Winifred is able to get Sabrina back. At this point, Iris tells Laura that she, not Laura, wrote The Blind Assassin, even though they did work on it together in some ways. Iris has written a second manuscript about her and Laura's life. She says she wrote it for Sabrina to set the record right. In May 1999, Iris dies. Sabrina comes back from living in India soon after to look through her grandmother's things. Iris always hoped that Sabrina would come before she died so she could tell her story to her in person.
About the author. Margaret Atwood was born in Ottawa, but because of her father's job, she spent most of her childhood in rural Quebec. As a child, she read a lot and started writing her own songs and plays at the age of 6. Atwood got her BA in English from Victoria College at the University of Toronto. She then got her MA from Radcliffe College, the women's college that was part of Harvard University. Atwood started a PhD at Radcliffe, but she left after 2 years and didn't finish. She married writer Jim Polk in 1968, but they got a divorce 5 years later. She then started dating another writer, Graham Gibson, and they were together until Gibson died in 2019. Eleanor, who was born in 1976, is their only child. Double Persephone, a pamphlet of poems that came out in 1961, was Atwood's first book. During the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s, Atwood taught at different colleges and wrote at the same time. Some of her best-known books, like The Handmaid's Tale, 1985, and Cat's Eye, 1988, came out in the 1980s. The success of The Handmaid's Tale is a big reason why Atwood is known all over the world. In 2019, she wrote The Testaments, which is a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. That year, it was one of 2 books that shared the Booker Prize.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.